I heard a very popular man on social media say that he was completely okay with his wife sharing their marital problems with her friends so that she could get advice or help or comfort or whatever. And I immediately thought that is a recipe for disaster. And some marriages aren't struggling because what's happening at home. They're struggling because of what's being talked about outside the home. So today I want to talk about what I believe we should do when we're having problems in our marriage. And this is for women who want to be married, who are soon to be married, and who are already in a marital relationship. And I want to say this up front. This is my opinion. It's my sisterly advice based on what I've experienced in life, having been married before, and what I learned in preparation for marriage from the scriptures. And the first thing is, friends are emotionally attached, and once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. We can't unring a bell that's already been rung. And of course, some of us do have friends who try to be unbiased and neutral. I know I do. I'm very grateful that my friends hold me accountable for things, but I know some of you may not have that. But more times than not, it's hard for our friends to stay neutral because they love us, they care about us, and they feel what we feel, especially if you've had a really long-term friendship with that person. And that's not wrong, but emotion is not the same as wisdom. And now think about this. Usually we have an argument in our marriage with our husband. We're frustrated, maybe hurt, so we call a friend just to vent. She'll listen, she comforts, she agrees with us many times, and that's what friends do. And I want to say this real quick. Men, this is for you too. In reverse, you talking to your male friends about things with your marriage and with your wife. This all applies to both sides. So after you've done that with her, then time passes, the issue gets resolved between you and your husband, the marriage improves, you've forgiven each other, you've talked through it, and everything's fine. But here's the part we don't always think about. That moment we shared doesn't get resolved for her the same way it does for us. She only remembers the version of our husband we described on our worst day when we were having the most challenges. And once those words are out there, they can't be taken back. That's why scripture says in Proverbs 18:17, the one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. Our friendships only ever hear one side, and that side becomes the lens they see our marriage through. Now, the next thing is something we don't usually think about, but it's grumbling, complaining, and gossiping. And I want to say this gently because most of us don't mean harm when we do this. But when we complain about our husband to a friend, when we grumble about him, or when we repeatedly vent about his flaws, the Bible actually has a word for that, and it's gossip. And I know that may feel uncomfortable to hear because you're not doing this intentionally typically, and we don't think of things that way. We think we're just talking, we're just getting things off our chest or getting advice or helping process what we're going through. But the Bible is clear about what happens when we speak negatively about someone who isn't there to defend themselves. Proverbs 16:28 says, a perverse person stirs up conflict and a gossip separates close friends. And that could be a close relationship, a close marriage. That word gossip doesn't only mean spreading rumors. It includes repeatedly talking about someone's faults to people who are not a part of the solution. And Proverbs 18:8 says, the words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the innermost parts. In other words, the words stick, they sink in, and they shape our perception and our attitude. There's also a warning about grumbling itself. In Philippians 2:14, it says, do everything without grumbling or arguing. That doesn't mean we never feel frustrated. It means we have to be careful where we take that frustration and how we express it. Because over time, grumbling doesn't just release pressure, it shapes our attitude. It hardens our heart, and it slowly dishonors the covenant we're trying to protect, or that we should protect. And here's the part that really matters, I think. When we complain to someone who can't help fix the situation, we're not seeking wisdom, we're just spreading dissatisfaction. And that's what scripture tells us to guard our words, not just our hearts. And the next thing is, privacy is not secrecy, it's stewardship. Now let me explain what this looks like in real life. Someone asks questions and we overshare because we don't want to seem closed off, but not everyone deserves access. Jesus himself did not share everything with everyone. Matthew 7:6 says, do not give what is holy to those who will misuse it. And when you say misuse it, it doesn't mean they're intentionally doing that. It's just a part of human nature. Boundaries are not walls, they are wisdom. And the next thing is, when too many people know, doors can open. I want to say this carefully. This is uncomfortable, but real. I'm grateful that this has never happened to me, but I know we've all heard stories of where it has happened to someone, where a woman has shared too much about her marital situation, about their husband, what he likes or doesn't like, or what issues they're having. And over time, that person they confided in becomes emotionally attached, curious, or even attracted to that person's husband. And in some cases, that information is used against them. In some cases, it's created opportunity, and it even caused damage and the destruction of the marriage. And although I don't believe this can ever happen based on the relationships I have now, but I am wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove, as the Bible tells us to be. Wisdom is the principal thing in everything we do in life, because the Bible tells us in John 10:10 that the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And the devil doesn't like marriage. He does not like covenants. He does not like unity. If he can't get in directly, he looks for side doors. And a lot of times we open that side door, even just a little bit, and he comes right on in. Genesis 2:24 says, the two shall become one flesh. One flesh means unity, not exposure, not shared vulnerability with outsiders. Because Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else. And guarding our hearts includes guarding our marriage. And the last thing is what I believe we should do instead of sharing with our friend. We should go to leadership, a pastor, a trusted church leader, a marriage ministry leader who could be a mentor for us. And this is usually why. This is where many of us feel stuck. We don't know what's normal. We don't know what needs to change. That's where covering matters. Hebrews 13:17 says, they keep watch over your souls and will give an account. That means leaders are not giving opinions casually. They are responsible for God for the guidance they give. They are neutral. They are accountable. They are to protect the covenant, not just our feelings. And Malachi 2:15 tells us that God himself is deeply invested in marriage. It says that God makes the two one and that he is seeking godly offspring. In other words, marriage matters to God. Covenant matters to God. What happens inside a marriage affects more than just two people, and God takes protecting it seriously. You know, in Proverbs 11:14, it says, the multitude of counselors, there is safety. That doesn't mean telling everyone. It means seeking wise, qualified, godly counsel. It means going to people who have spiritual maturity, discernment, and authority, not just emotional closeness. That's why scripture points us to counselors and not confidants. So if this video has been encouraging for you or kind of opened your eyes to something, stop for a second and comment. And if you don't agree with me, I love to hear that as well. You know, you may not agree with what I'm saying, but if you do, put a thumbs up and share it with someone that might need to hear it. Subscribe if you like content like this. I really love sharing about preparing for marriage and being in marriage and coming out of some of the mistakes I've made. I think I can really help women with their marital relationships. I'm not a pastor or a counselor. I'm just a Christian woman who's been saved for 25 years, and I just love helping people. So thank you for watching. And also, I have a playlist in the description section about relationships and marriage and preparing. I think that will encourage you as well. Have a great day. Bye.